it builds such a good foundation, not only for like you doing your work, it literally builds a good foundation for you as a person, because you realize like this is the basis of how I learn to handle whatever comes my way.
Hey, it's Teru from Our Kids. I recently interviewed Chelsea Campbell, who graduated from Bond Academy in 2015, and she's currently doing a double master's in criminology and psychology. Check it out. So, Chelsea, can you start by giving us an example of what you've been up to since graduating from Bond?
So after graduating from Bond, I kept very busy, which was something that was continuous in my life from even being in school. So from then, I went into York University. I had applied there for criminology, and then after that, I ended up picking up a double course load, pretty much. And I'm doing I was doing two like majors, which was psychology and criminology, and then on the side, I'm also helping out with my family business, typically.
Okay, cool. And are you right now? Are you still at York?
Yes, so I finished my undergrad. I graduated with that, and now I'm actually working on double masters for both criminology and psychology as well.
Okay, so it seems like you're really into criminology and psychology. Um,
Yes, compare
how
the two.
do you say your time at Bond has shaped your career path that way?
Well, definitely from because I started at Bond very young, so I went through all the phases of trying to figure out what I had wanted to do, and over the years, I ended up figuring out that I had a passion for like I guess you could say debating, and then I like to talk about a wide variety of topics, like to look at different point of views, and then that ended up honing into my interest in law. And Bond provided me with an opportunity to take law courses that were supposed to be for grade 12 students, but they allowed me to do them earlier because of my grade point average. And then from there, what ended up happening was I pretty much developed a passion for it. It's very interesting to say the way it developed, just because throughout classes, they're always very, how do I put this? Everybody's very interactive.
Okay.
So we're free to express like all of your opinions, see everybody's different point of views, ideas. So they allow everybody to kind of have a say in everything, and they nurture that.
Okay. And you graduated in 2015, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
So I know it was a while ago, but if you can remember your experiences and accomplishments while you were at Bond in high school, what would that resume look like?
It would go on for quite a bit.
Okay.
So I was very shy when I first started Bond, and over time, especially throughout high school, I developed into a much more outgoing person because of the nurturing that I managed to get from them. The
Mhm.
classes there are very small, so there's a lot of individual time in regards to like the teachers paying attention to you, and then being like really able and capable of seeing the potential in each individual student. So for me, my accomplishments, they tend to range because for Bond, um, for high school specifically, what happened was I ended up doing Shakespeare on the platform when I was in grade 9. So
Okay.
that was a very interesting experience. I was only grade 9 because it's typically a competition for grade 12s.
Okay.
So from that and all of the practicing and all the help I got from the teachers to be able to compete in that, I actually ended up in second place, which won us a trophy. So I was very proud of that. And then when I was in grade 11, I went back and I did it again. And this time, because now we had experience with it, we knew what we were working with, we ended up coming first in that. And for that competition itself, I had to end up reciting 2 sonnets and a soliloquy.
Oh, okay.
That was very interesting. I also ended up starting the female sports teams for Bond because in high school, what tends to happen is we have a very high volume international student.
Mhm.
So a lot of them, they're coming here and they're learning English for the first time, and it's a lot of new experiences for them. So then when mixing in with the local kids, because we tend to have a smaller local population than we do international in comparison.
Mhm.
So really mixing in with like international students, not only do you get a good sense of culture, but then they also get a good sense of new experiences here in Canada. So starting those teams and being able to like pull people who are from very different culture, and then being able to like give them the experience, and then they get to try different things and find out what they like. So that was that. For me as well, I ended up starting what tends to be called now like our famine. So this was an idea that was based off of around the world. There's a lot of people who go without food and shelter for very long periods of time, unfortunately. And I would like to say, especially for us in private school, we tend to be very blessed. So it was an idea that came to me, and through talking through one of the teachers, that maybe like this is a way for us to earn community hours for us to be able to experience real life famine on a daily basis. So after a certain age, from elementary school up, we limit the amount of hours where pretty much after a certain time for the end of school, you would not eat anything. So that way you would understand what it was like to go to sleep hungry pretty much, and then understand that we're very thankful for everything we get. And in that way we did donations where we gathered food. We donated to like places, a lot of food banks across Canada. And then also we, from that, like children could earn the community hours, and then we stayed over, and then we made it into sort of a fun experience. So that way, not only are you understanding what's happening in the world and bringing light to an issue, but at the same time, it's something that children can understand and want to participate in. So that was something else. Um, let's see, after that, there was quite a lot happening. I was always a part of a lot of different fundraisers, whatever would happen. Typically, we go through the seasons of Christmas fundraisers, so the hungry and homeless. Even for Halloween, we would do fundraisers, bake sales. There was a lot of targeted things that we like to try to get involved in, especially in our community. So everything from the Terry Fox Run all the way up is what I can say for that.
You said you enrolled at Bond in grade 5.
Yeah.
So could you take us back and tell us how your family and yourself decided to go to Bond, if you remember?
Yes, it was very interesting because originally I had been at Danforth Gardens Public School because that was at the time we were closer there. And then we had ended up moving to a different house. So the public school here at that time, I think, wasn't probably one of our better choices. So we ended up seeing that Bond had, I think my dad had a connection to somebody at Bond, and they were explaining, well, it's a private school. If you come here, it's very student oriented in regards to like the teachers being able to communicate with the students and provide with like extra attention and be able to really look into and deeper develop like students for all the good characteristics that they'd be able to see in them. So from there, we ended up going, we took a tour, I remember, and I ended up enrolled at Bond. That was my parents' decision. And it was very interesting because it was quite the change going from public school to private school.
Right.
It was the first time I ever had to wear a uniform. And I remember starting off very shy because a lot of the time what happens is for students who typically in the private school, they started very young. So a lot of these children grow up together, and then coming in new, you're always shy, especially when you're that young.
Right. And it sounds like you had a lot of positive experiences at Bond. But what would you say is the one thing that you most appreciate about the school?
If I had to pick one thing that I would say I appreciated the most, it's probably all of the time and nurturing that went into the development of the potential they see in students.
Okay.
So, especially for me, I know that um, I tend to like to overachieve, especially, and that was something that was very nurtured, but it was done so in a way where I was given the freedom of myself, not exactly people telling me what to do, but also the ability for me to test out so many different things without being concerned about if I fail, it's going to have such a negative impact because I had such a good foundation in regards to the support behind me.
Okay. And what would you say differentiates Bond from other private schools?
I would definitely say in regards to like the student teacher like relations where you can go in and you can have conversations with your teachers, and not only do they hear you like as students, but the thing is they'll hear you as people. They understand you like your personality, they see you in class, but you're free to talk to them as well. And from there, you build a foundation of trust and development. And that way, it makes it very easy for you to communicate if you're having problems with anything. Like if you're having a problem with schoolwork, if you need somebody to talk to, it makes a very safe environment.
And if Bond were to become personified, if it was a person that we could get to know, describe to me what that would be in 3 words.
Unique, for sure. I would definitely say nurturing.
Okay.
And then the last one is, I'll go with open-minded. So Bond itself, especially in comparison to other private schools that I had seen, because in regards to when we would go for like trips and stuff, what I would say is it's very unique in regards to how they tend to handle everything. Like it's very open. So there's not so much in regards to, how do I put this properly? The way they handle things is very based uniquely on the situation itself. So they see the needs of each individual student coming in, and they manage to take that and pretty much design something around it to help them meet their maximum potential, which is something that I understand a lot of schools do, but I do think that Bond tends to take that and elevate it to the next level, especially with my personal experience. In regards to that, for me, why I think that makes it unique is just because, especially from going from such a small school into like a university where there are thousands of people, they really help to show you your sense of self. And in regards to that, like you can take that and apply that into an even like larger community, into the like large picture, the big world. And then you never lose sight of that. So I think that's something that really resonates and what makes them very unique. In regards to nurturing, again, like whether or not it's success or failure, whether or not it's difficulties trying to reach whatever goals you set out for yourself, as long as you have your built foundation, which is something that you learned and how to take care of it, you can apply that to everything and it makes you feel very secure. Mm-hmm. And then the last one was open-minded, yes. So they're very open-minded to new ideas. They're always reaching new heights. They're always trying to connect everybody in regards to what's happening in the world, always keeping an open mind towards not only like different ideas, but different cultures. And then you really get to experience like a lot of diversity.
Mm-hmm. And at Bond, what would you say is the highest value that you saw in actual practice?
Highest value in actual practice is, I would definitely say, the development of characteristics for like positive characteristics for the students themselves, because everybody was always like receiving, if you had questions, if you had help, even the students there, the environment, even if it was something that you thought would make you feel, let's say, insecure for asking, there was never a time where anything had ever happened where somebody would make you feel bad for not knowing something, or would make you feel a little less than for asking a question that's supposed to, let's say, be common knowledge.
Okay.
So definitely in practice.
That's great. And what do you think students and families would find surprising about Bond?
I think definitely what they would find surprising is, even though we have a very high volume of international students, I would say how connected everybody stays. So just in regards to, everybody mingles with everyone. So especially the high school, because it's so small, grade 9s, and even like, I guess you can say this goes into some of the grade 8s as well, because everybody tends to know each other. But from grade 9 to grade 12, there's not really sectioned off like your typical high school where everybody stays to themselves. Everybody's interconnected. So I think that's very surprising, usually.
And you spoke about a small local population and a fairly bigger, proportionally international student body. Could you describe for me what the typical Bond student is like?
Yes. So I think it varies a little bit from international to local. But your typical Bond student, I would say, is, I think the locals here are a little bit different because we all come from very close in the vicinity to where it is. So we all have like the understanding of around Scarborough. So we're very familiar with everything that's here. So we know all the hot spots like Scarborough Town Center, etc. So then even being able to go up the street to get something to eat during lunchtime, like your typical bond student is like for locals, I would say it's very adventurous, fairly laid back, but also they have their goals in mind and they always have an idea of what they're aiming for at least. In regards to the international population, I've noticed that they like when they come here, they're very open to new experiences. They love to interact with everybody, learn new things. Like they'll always be asking us like for opinions and everything and where or not like, you know, all our local hotspots are. And then in return, like we also pretty much get to see like they'll explain to us like the differences and how things work. And you really get a good understanding and a good idea of the culture. So I would say typically very adventurous, very open-minded, very friendly and welcoming.
Okay. And how would you say the school has shaped you as a person?
So definitely I would say Bond had a very big influence on who I am. Because of such a small community, you really get to explore a lot of options. And for me personally, what that was like is I got to have a good understanding of what I liked and what I disliked, and even in regards to my future, what I had decided to study and what I had really decided to explore. So for me, in regards to how it shaped, especially like my personality, is going into Bond, I was very shy.
Mhm.
So, especially going into a class full of kids who were already familiar with each other, I had always felt like an odd one out just because I always tended to be more athletic than your typical girls at that age. So then going into Bond, I really got to nurture that. And instead of it turning into a quality that I decided not to pursue, I absolutely ended up loving sports. Like I was given the opportunity to play on basketball teams. We have like the girls' teams, and I excelled from there. Like I really enjoyed it. So from that, like we actually ended up, I became captain and captain, team leader, a lot of different words for it, um, for our girls' teams typically, just due to the athleticism itself. And that was something that I was always turned out to be very proud of. So not only did I learn to indulge in new things, but then also I could learn to be more social, you know, learn to not be as scared as you are when you're that small.
Right. And you spoke about all the enriching experiences that you had at Bond. But if there's something that you could change, if there's one thing that you could change about the school, what would that be?
The one thing that I can definitely say would maybe need a little bit of tweaking is especially as you continue to get older and they begin to see like more and more of your potential. Especially for each individual student. For me personally, I was held at a very high standard, which especially at that age is compared to where you are 15, 16, compared to the grown-ups seeing like adults seeing your potential. It sometimes can feel a little bit stressful, especially when you know that there's so much expected of you. In regards to that, like I think that is a double-sided sword because that is both a negative and a positive things. So as long as they're teaching you to get through it, which is what happened with me, so I'm thankful for, then you begin to not be so scared of either failure or disappointment and realizing that's just another stepping stone for being able to develop and becoming better.
Hmm.
So maybe a little bit of that.
Okay. And now that you're 5 years removed from Bond, how has your perspective on the school evolved over time?
Well, over time, for sure, especially when I was going to school, I really did not like the uniforms. I didn't like that because we did have things such as dress down days and like where you could express yourself pretty much. And back then, the idea of wearing uniforms and being so standard with the tie and the formal sweaters and then being so in such a close proximity to adults at all times, it really made me feel like at that point, like I wasn't getting the full high school experience in regards to what other kids might be doing in public school. Now that I'm out and I'm in university, that is something that I am very thankful for that happened because not only now it is something that I have noticed throughout the years, but I have no problem conversing with people who have an age gap to where I am right now. Being able to actually hold conversations and then not feel awkward talking to somebody who has a little bit more experience than you, and being able to actually communicate with them in a way where you don't feel like you're childish or that, they might look at you weird just because of what has happened. I think that is something that I absolutely positively, I'm so happy that I managed to take away from that, because not only now, especially looking at how high school helped to shape me, but going into university and seeing, like, especially with the stereotypical, like, as soon as you reach university, everybody goes wild. Coming from a high school where it's already a very small population and everybody is, like, close knit, you really begin to see that also shapes your perspective on things. Like, you learn to make better choices, you understand, like, where your limits are, what you shouldn't be doing, and then that really gives you the ability to, like, reach out and be more open to talking to so many more people, getting so many more insights, and really being able to spread your wings.
Mm-hmm. And would you recommend that students enroll at Bond?
I would, for sure.
And what would be the 3 biggest reasons why?
3 biggest reasons why is because they will for sure help you develop and reach a potential that even if you don't see, that they will see and help you develop, like, for yourself, to make you the best that you could possibly be. That's definitely one reason. The second one is you will 100% always feel welcome. You will never feel like you are on the receiving end of, let's say, negative feedback. They know how to give you creative criticism without you having to worry about, like, feeling like, I'm disappointing myself. I'm not doing good at this. This is something that I don't want to do. They will never make you feel like you are less than the potential you have, for sure. And the third reason, I think it is such a different environment from so many other, like, public and private schools, just because of how the population differs. Not only are you getting, like, your private school experience, you're also capable of seeing, like, how many different cultures come in and out. You get to mix with so many different people. You get to learn so much about the world, and it is such an eye-opening experience to see how it varies so much from, let's say, somebody who is Canadian growing up here, especially around Toronto, to somebody who grew up in China, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is such an eye-opener, and you really get to be able to understand just so many different points of views.
Okay. And outside of those 3 reasons, what would you say to a family that's considering sending their child to Bond?
I would definitely say that is a decision that would help benefit in the long run, for sure, and it is not something that you would ever regret doing, because you are kept so up to date and everybody is, like, so close knit in regards to what's happening in the school. Parents are in and out all the time. So it's just something that you will always have a hand in, no matter what.
Okay. And then lastly, what would be your one piece of advice to a student that is just about to enter Bond?
Definitely, I would say for any students entering Bond at any point in time, I would like to tell you to just don't be afraid to be yourself. Try out new things. Test to see things that you like, that you don't like, and just enjoy your time while you're there. Just be as free as you can. There's nothing to be shy or afraid or concerned about. Everybody there will support you for what you're doing, and it'll help you develop into an amazing person, for sure.